Okay, so now we're going to build a new web remote, and we're going to do it by starting with a Reaper toolbar. So this is a toolbar here. This is one that I use very often for mixing, and it has functions like copying and pasting the effects chain, showing the monitor window, showing the routing window, showing the track manager, and then filters that, and then buttons that show and hide tracks based on their name. So all tracks, all buses, so any top level track that has the word bus in the title, drums, percussion, bass, guitars, keys, vocal, effects, and then the snapshot window, which opens on my second monitor. If I open up the uh, customize menu toolbar function by right-clicking and clicking on customize toolbar, this is what it looks like. I have these specific names, but these are not the action names. So copy effects chain, if I go to change action, copy effects chain from selected track, it's an SWS action. Any action that I rename here is going to come over to Reaper WRB when I import this. I don't really want to get into how these actions work in this video because I've covered this in other videos on the site. So just have a search for show and hide tracks or something like that. And this is also in my paid mixing courses. So yeah, we're going to take this toolbar. We're going to go to the export button here and export current menu / toolbar to Reaper menu file. This should automatically come to the Reaper folder. And in here, we're going to the menu sets folder. And we'll just give this a name. Like this is, we'll just call this mixer. All right, switching over to my browser, to Reaper WRB, and I'll go to the editor. I will choose blank and click on toolbar. And it'll ask me what toolbar to import. And you just need to direct this this Finder window or Windows Explorer window to that saved toolbar. So it's pretty easy to find because it has today's modification date. Click on open. Toolbars are always going to import into a new tab. We can always delete this tab, this first tab. And so there we go. This is automatically named mixer. We can go to color. And so we've got copy and paste effects chains. You can see that all of the names have come over automatically and the action IDs for each of these have come over. So we'll just go through this real quick and assign colors and icons. So copy, let's use this one, paste. That works for me. Monitor. So this kind of graph thing makes sense to me because you're often using frequency spectrum analyzers and things like that in there. Routing window. Let's do one of the matrix ones like this. Maybe this one. Yeah, that looks good. And the track manager. Do like the list. Show all tracks. Yeah, I think that's probably fine the way it is. I'm going to move my snapshots button up here, and I'll move my all tracks down here. I think I'll move my keys down to here. So I actually made up some different icons for this with folders. So search for folder, and you'll see several that I made for basically just for myself. Percussion, bass, guitar, keys, vocal, and effects. Okay, so I'm going to go into bulk edit mode, and I'm going to color some of these. So my all tracks and my all buses, I want them to be nice and noticeable. And these other ones, they don't have to be quite so bright. We'll just do that. Yeah, that looks good to me. All right, let's hit connect so we can see this in action, see if this is working. And so I can click on all bus, drums, percussion, bass, guitars, keys, vocal, effects. There's no effects tracks in here. Back to all tracks. Yeah, and that all works. Can launch the monitor effects window, open the routing window, open the track manager, open the snapshots window. This is all working. It's great. There's a couple more actions that I saved a while ago into a toolbar that I want to add here. So I'm just going to go to the toolbar button again and go to menu sets, and add to remote is what I called this Reaper menu. So that's going to bring that into a new tab. And I'm going to delete the tab, but keep the items. So delete and then keep. And so these new actions are here. We just need to rename these. So these are show only in selection. This actual function is only going to show me tracks in the project that have media items on them within the time selection. So I might do, I don't know, like an I or something like that. Let's do that for both of these. And this other action is for show only in position. It's only wherever the edit cursor is. If I hit this button, it's only going to show me where there's media item, or the tracks that have media items at that current position. Yeah, and I'll just color these, green with black text. Okay. All right, so I think that's all I want to do with this one at least until I can test it. And so I'm going to save this. We have 3 different options for saving, and this adds a lot more flexibility than the previous way of only saving HTML files. So I think the HTML one is the most straightforward to understand. That's similar to how I showed you the previous saved web remotes, the non-WRB web remotes, or how the previous version of Reaper WRB worked. So if you save it as HTML, you're going to save the HTML file into the Reaper www root folder. I'll show you that here. You would save it into this folder. Now let's just go ahead and do that. So this is Mixer remote. And save it as HTML. Ask you where to save it. Click OK, and you bring this into that that Reaper folder. Reaper. It's always a good idea to bookmark this stuff because you'll need it. So there we go. So that's saved into as a HTML file. I'm going to open up a new browser tab and go to rc.reaper.fm/remote/mixer remote. Is that what I called it? That HTML. So it's still going to work inside of Reaper WRB, but we've directed the browser straight to this remote. We can still open it up in the editor and all that kind of stuff. So saving it that way makes it not show up on the homepage. You'd have to direct your tablet or your phone to that specific URL every time you want to use it. Of course, you can bookmark it, similar to how I showed earlier. But if you want it to show up on the start page, you need to save it in a different way. So I'm going to close this window. Again, clicking save. Now let's do it in the browser mode. Using the browser option, we'll save it into the browser's local cache. It won't be accessible to any other remote devices. It doesn't make sense to save it that way unless we want kind of just a quick backup. But when we are, let's say, editing this on the tablet or an iPad or something like that, that's a way that we can save our remote and keep working on our mix or whatever we're working on without, having to do any file management or anything like that. We can just edit a web remote, save it inside of the mobile device's browser, and that's safe until we can go and save it into the third option, the database option. Just to show you what that's like on in the browser option, save this as Reaper Remote. We see it here and it says local. Now, if I go to another web browser like Safari, and I go to rc.reaper.fm/WRB, you'll see that web remote's not available. It's only saved inside of this instance of Firefox. It's there for convenience with the mobile editing. It's not super useful for desktop. All right, so back to editing. And now we're going to save this as a third option. We'll save it into the database. And so this requires you to save it as a JavaScript file. This works really well on Chrome and Firefox. It doesn't work so well on Safari. Safari doesn't let you overwrite a file. It always changes the name. Even if you say yes, overwrite, you'll have to modify the name. But the benefit of doing it this way is that anything you save inside that database file will be accessible from the start page on any device. So let's go ahead and do that. And so it'll ask you to save webremote.js. Click OK. And we want to go into the Reaper WRB2 folder and this webremote.js. That's where we want to save it. Ask to replace, and you say yes. Now, if we click Home, we see the DB option here. And I'll just set up my tablet. So now I can see that on my tablet, Mixer Remote is visible. I can select it and I can start using it. And actually, it looks like I've got room for 2 more buttons side by side. So let's do this simultaneously, I guess. We'll edit inside of my desktop browser. And let's just nudge these over like that. And I guess I'll just do that here. Or maybe for now, I'll just remove this. I don't really need that one as much as the others. And I can put this here. Yeah. And I'll delete the extra rows and save it. Save it into the database again. Again, overwriting that file. Replace. I can hit home and they'll be corrected automatically. And I'll just go over to my remote device and I'll just drag down to refresh, hit reload. And now I know that 2, 4, 6, 8 buttons across is the maximum width for this device. Yeah, so let's see if it works. Just go to Reaper again, close these things, and so I'll hit my drums, percussion, bass, guitars, keys, vocal, back to all tracks, and I'll just put in some items kind of randomly here. So I've put my cursor here, do show only in position. That's taking it down to 3 tracks. If I do everything like that, it's going to do only the tracks that are in use in that time selection. And if I make a time selection differently like this, it's only going to do that one track. And back to all tracks. So there you go. This is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful things you can do with the web remote. I absolutely love having this as on a touch screen. It saves me so much time when I'm mixing. And it's nice to be able to not have this toolbar take up space on my screen anymore. So there you go. That's building a new web remote, starting with a toolbar import. We've added in a second toolbar import. Plus we went through the 3 different saving options.